Hi people, it's Archivist here, and today I'm going to be talking some more about Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but unfortunately it's a little bit of a downer topic today, and I'll keep it relatively brief because we all know about this if you've been keeping up with Call of Duty news, but unfortunately there is a mode within Spec Ops called Survival, and for all intents and purposes it's a horde mode. If you played Modern Warfare 3 you'll pretty much be familiar with this concept, and in fact if you've played zombies before you're familiar with the overall horde concept. It's fair to say a lot of people who play Call of Duty like horde mode, but it turns out that this is going to be an exclusive mode to PlayStation 4 for an entire year, and as many people know, the typical life cycle for most gamers of a Call of Duty game is a year, because then the next one comes out and we move over to that. And considering that we might be seeing the next generation consoles this time next year, I feel like a lot of people will migrate to whatever the next Call of Duty happens to be. So this is, honestly, more than anything guys, this is disappointing for me, because I felt that on the whole, on average, there was a lot of good feeling about this Call of Duty, and I don't like negativity. I don't like joining bandwagons. I like it when things just work out and everyone's on board. And it felt like for the first time in a long time people were excited, and rightfully so, for a Call of Duty title, but now that's all changed because they've just thrown in, on top of the almost certain microtransactions that are going into the game, they're throwing in this as well. This is really a bad look for Activision more than anyone. I know some people are blaming Sony, some people are even blaming Microsoft. I think for me the safest person to blame is Activision, because I suspect, this is purely speculation, but I suspect that they are the ones that fielded this offer to both console manufacturers and effectively instigated a bidding war between the two. And it forced Sony and Microsoft to likely do this bidding behind the scenes because they don't want to miss out, and Sony happened to be the one on the top. It could of course also have been swayed by their existing deals where they've had the beta early, they get content early, but it's hard to say. Again, it's all speculation. Whatever I say here, don't take it to heart. Don't think this is truthful. I'm just trying to, I guess, comprehend why they would do this. One thing I will say though, as a YouTuber who is much smaller, I think it's fair to say, than a lot of people who will be covering this, I have the luxury of not having to over dramatize it. I can be honest about how I personally feel in reaction to this. And in real talk, look, this is a game mode that I and most people didn't know was going to be in the game, and therefore if I'm choosing to get this on Xbox, I am losing access to something that I didn't even know was going to be there in the first place. From a principled point of view, it sucks, because as the salient point has been made, I am paying the same amount of money as someone who owns a PlayStation 4 and is buying it for that platform, but I am getting a lesser experience. But to some extent that's always been the case with COD, because there's always been a preference to one particular platform. This is just an incredibly extreme exaggeration of that pre-existing setup. So it's more like they're pushing something they already had in place. I have decided my stance on this. I'm not going to not get the game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not just going to not get it over one game mode that, again, I didn't even know was going to be in the game. However, as someone who was going to get this game either on PC or an Xbox, if they fix the screen tearing on Xbox One X, which there's been suggestion they might do that, I was going to get it on one of those two platforms. I was not going to get it on PlayStation 4 Pro because I thought it looked super blurry. So I wasn't going to get it on that platform, and I have decided that despite this revelation, I will not be changing my mind on that. I haven't pre-ordered the game, but I have sort of, if you will, mentally decided that I will purchase the game on either a PC or Xbox One X. I'm going to wait for the early reviews to come out, see if I can get a gauge on performance on Xbox One X. If it's lacking, I'll go PC, otherwise I'll go Xbox One X. So that's my personal stance, and I think that's the one I'd recommend. I think it's a little bit unfair to gamers to say, look, you should, no matter what you're playing on, you should cancel your pre-order, you should not get this game because of that, because look, ultimately, let's get a little bit of a bigger picture. We live in a world that has some real problems in it, and you know, when I compare the issues of video games to that of the stresses that I get in my job, for example, they absolutely pale in comparison. So it's very hard for me to get too worked up about video games these days, and I think that's the case for a lot of people. So I also have to say get some perspective. That sounds overly aggressive, but you know what I mean. Truly ask yourself. Don't look to the grander internet as to what they're thinking. Look into yourself and decide what you think is best, because everyone should make their own decision based on this. It is without question an unfortunate scenario, but it's one that I think we can afford to make our own assessment on. And if you'd like to, please do comment what your assessment of this situation is. I'll be great to hear that. I know some people just don't want to be playing the game. They don't want to be affiliated with a franchise that will make these kind of decisions, but I know there are others with more moderate views. It'll be interesting to hear. So, as always, people, thanks very much for watching and see you next time.